Welcome to the Headway Podcast, where we explore stories, strategies and support for individuals living with brain injuries. My name is Shane and I'm thrilled to be your host today.
And I'm Rachel. We're here to dive into the world of Headway, a service dedicated to making a meaningful impact on the lives of individuals affected by brain injuries.
So what exactly is Headway? Well, at its core, Headway is more than just a service. It's a lifeline for those navigating the challenges of life after a brain injury. Our mission is to provide support, resources and a community for individuals and their families, helping them regain control and find hope on their journey to recovery.
Yeah, absolutely. We understand that a brain injury can be a life-altering event, affecting not just the individual but everyone around them. At Headway, we're driven by a set of values that guide us in our commitment to making a positive impact. Compassion, resilience and empowerment are at the heart of everything we do.
And that brings us to the core problems we aim to solve for our clients. We recognise the unique, often complex challenges that come with brain injuries, whether it's navigating the healthcare system, adjusting to new life circumstances, or finding the right support network. Headway is here to help individuals and their families navigate these challenges with confidence and resilience.
Yeah, exactly. We believe in fostering a sense of community and understanding. Our goal is to break down the barriers that individuals with brain injuries may face, providing a platform for shared experiences, expert insights, and practical advice.
So whether you're someone directly impacted by a brain injury or a caregiver seeking advice, this podcast is for you. Join us as we embark on this journey together, exploring stories of triumph, strategies for success, and the unwavering support that Headway brings to the table. So now that you've gotten to know a bit more about what Headway is, let's dive into the reasons why we created this podcast.
Yeah, we didn't just start this podcast for the sake of it. We're here because we believe in the power of storytelling and shared experiences.
That's right. When we looked around, we realised that while there are many resources out there, there was a missing link. A platform that brings together the stories of resilience, the strategies that work, and the support that goes beyond the clinical set.
And that's where the idea of the Headway Podcast was born. We wanted to create a space where individuals and families could find inspiration, information, and a sense of community.
Our hope is that this podcast becomes a beacon of hope for those who may feel alone in their journey. We want to break down the walls of isolation that often accompany brain injuries and create a space where people can connect, learn, and grow together.
Exactly, Shane. By sharing these stories, we aim to provide a source of comfort, encouragement, and empowerment. We want our listeners to know that they're not alone in this journey, and there's a community here ready to support them.
With that said, Rachel, we're not just here to talk. We're here to listen. We want to hear from you, our listeners. Your stories, your questions, your triumphs, they will all contribute to the richness of this community.
So, as we embark on this podcasting journey, our goal is to create a valuable resource for not only our clients at Headway, but for anyone out there touched by the challenges of a brain injury. We want to be a companion, a guide, and a source of strength.
And with that, we invite you to join us on this adventure. Click the follow button, share your thoughts, and let's build a community that uplifts and inspires. We're about to embark on a special part of today's episode, where we introduce you to the remarkable individuals who will be taking over the conversation. Each week, we'll be featuring different guests sharing their unique stories of resilience in the face of brain injuries.
Today, we have the privilege of having 4 incredible guests with us. Let's meet them. Josephine?
Hello, everybody. My name is Josephine Gilchrist. I came down with brain injuries about 12 years ago. They did an MRI scan on me because I had high blood pressure, and then they discovered that there were 2 brain aneurysms, one on the right side of the brain and the other on the left side. The doctor in Beaumont Hospital came to my assistant and he says to me, "Do you want me to operate on you?" And I said, "Can you help me?" He said, "Yes, I can. They can be released, but I have to go into your brain." He's done a fantastic job. I have no regrets of what he's done. Wonderful, wonderful. They took so much interest with his staff and with the hospital. About 8 months after my brain injuries, I was introduced to a lovely, lovely group of people, and they came from Headways. To this day, Headways are just out of this world, and I mean it, because they gave me a new world, accepting myself with my brain injuries and helped me to recover. It's been a fantastic journey, and I definitely think people should find out more, and they should have an awful lot more going for them. It's wonderful, Headways. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Hi, I'm Peter Maybury. I had an accident about 5 years ago, fractured my skull in 4 places, shattered my eye socket. And remember nothing about it. It's taken 5.5 years to get to the point that I'm at now. It's been a tough 5.5 years. I got involved with Headway, thank God, about a year ago, and did a CFT program, a compassion-focused therapy. Without that, I would not be where I am. And let me tell you right now, you don't know what you don't know. You think you're fine. I was there a year ago. You're not. There's a long, long way to become part of who you were again. First thing that it really taught me was accept that things have changed. You have damage and you need to manage that. And once you accept it, you can start to open up to ways of opening thinking again and start to remap your brain to make up for the shortfall in what happened. Without Headway, that wouldn't have happened. If you think you're okay, you're not. Seriously think about Headway as a way of getting well.
My name's Seamus Carroll. I'm here with a cavernoma, which is a kind of abnormal cluster of blood cells on the brain. I was originally diagnosed with a brain tumour, but it turned out it wasn't a tumour, it was actually a cavernoma. I got treatment for what the bleed that the cavernoma had, which led to hydrocephalus, or fluid on the brain, as it's more commonly known. I went through quite a lot, and kind of from losing any grasp on reality to memory problems, my eyesight, my ears, and went through quite a bit of suffering. Like Peter, I did the CFT with Headway, which was kind of the first step, I suppose, back, kind of finding myself again. And since then I've gone on and done other things, including I've worked on the allotment, actually, the Headway allotment, and done the social group. I'm still doing that every second week here in Headway. So all of this has been quite, sort of redemption, or helped me along the pathway of kind of re-establishing myself and then coming back to being a person again, because it was a journey, I suppose.
My name is Mary Mangan. I'm actually going to read out my introduction because I do have difficulty expressing myself because of my brain injury. Nearly 9 years ago, I was struck down with a very rare viral brain illness called herpes simplex encephalitis. According to the information I have found, only 20% of the population have ever even heard of the illness, and a tiny proportion of the population actually get the illness. For me, it was devastating, but physically painless. The main part of my brain that was permanently injured was the hippocampus, which is involved in memory and use of language. I have very serious memory problems and affects my ability to have conversations about anything, really, due to difficulties remembering names of literally any person, animal, event or thing. Also great difficulty remembering what happened yesterday, last week, last year. I have absolutely no eating appetite and reduced sense of smell and taste. It is a truly hidden. There is a video of the man with the 7-second memory, which is on YouTube. I totally identify with it, though mine is in no way as bad. He had the same illness as I had. Through the great support I got through St. James's Hospital in Dublin and Headway, I joined Headway's choir and discovered I could sing. So I discovered something out of my illness, which I never knew before. I had never really realised it before. Also, there are friends in my life who have been golden to me over the years, but many who totally disappeared the day I got ill. I mean, that happened. Even now, I have good friends who I've made since my illness. But thank you, Headway's fantastic support. Yeah.
Thank you all for joining us today. Now I'll hand over the reins to our incredible guests. They'll be taking the lead under the 4 key headings.
Our first heading today is the journey to discovering Headway with Josephine Gilchrist.
Hello, everybody. Discovering Headways for me was sitting in a waiting room in Beaumont Hospital. I was recovering from my first brain aneurysm, and there was a phone number on the wall in the waiting room, and he could take a part of it and take it. And I got a leaflet then off the nurse when I was leaving. I rang Headways about a week later. It was suggested for me to come in and have some counselling, but to discover that and to come and sit to express how I was feeling and to express to me what Headways can do, it lifted my spirits so high that I just wanted to keep on living again, and I was not afraid to go to sleep at night. I slept soundly that night, realising I've got to accept the new me and be happy about it. And I have done that, and it's been worth every moment, second, because of Headways. Peter, can you tell me about yours? Your discovery with Headways.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of Headway. I was also in Beaumont. There were other agencies that were recommended by the staff in Beaumont, and they were pretty much non-responsive. So I muddled through for 4.5 years almost, before it was apparent that things weren't the way they should be in the way I was reacting to things. Things were not the way they should be in the way I was thinking. My reactions were completely unpredictable and were bordering on possible violent.
Did you feel lost, Peter?
No, I thought it was fine for most of the time, but I realised there are significant differences that have never been addressed.
So nobody to talk to.
I came across Headway's number and I rang. The first thing that really had an impact on me was, you're not on your own. Up to that point, I really thought I was. And the discussion, we went through the application process for some sort of therapy, for
Counselling?
the way I was going, counselling. And the CFT, the compassion focused therapy, came out of that. The differences have been absolutely incredible. Just remapping thought processes, remapping cognitive processes, just being able to think again for the first time in 4.5 years was huge.
Fantastic.
The difference not being on your own made was huge. And you're talking to people who understand, people who kind of get what you're saying. When you're talking to, because it's invisible, if you tell somebody who has no involvement with Headway or with any other group about a brain injury, they kind of go, you'll be grand. Can't see it, so it doesn't exist. It does exist. It's there. I said it before, and I say it again. You don't know what you don't know. You think you're fine, you're not. And it was because of the direct contact with Headway. They included me for a CFT program within 2-3 months, where I had been kind of drifting around for 4.5 years up to that point with no treatment. Difference was phenomenal, and it made all the difference in the world. I really, really believe that. So that's basically how I got involved with Headway.
Headway's the best.
I don't really remember because things are quite muddled from that time, but when my treatment was in Beaumont, and I think part of being kind of let go was getting referral to the National Rehabilitation Hospital. So I think it was there. I think once I started going there, Headway was mentioned. And
That in Dunleary, Seamus?
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and they were really good. I was like, I didn't want to go there at all. You know, as far as I was concerned. It's funny, I think, Scott, like, as far as I was concerned, I'd been through hospital and I was fixed. So I didn't really want to go to the hospital. But as it turned out, things weren't fixed at all. And, like, it took me a long time to realise just the state I was in, you know. So I went to the Mayfield Hospital and talked to, like, various, they were pretty helpful, in fairness. And I talked to like, the occupational therapist, the physiotherapist, like, speech and language person out there, the whole shebang. And they mentioned Headway. So I filled in the forms, sent them in, didn't hear anything for a little while, and then got a call. And I came in here with Lisa, and Jules came in and kind of did an interview. I think it was in this room, actually. And there was a couple of people on the screen there, and Lane was here. And that was grand. I wasn't really that with it, if truth be told. Like, I was answering questions, but I didn't really know what was going on, or like, not as much as I would now, doing the same thing. So what really, like two things happened then. A little bit of time passed, and then I got a call from Ciara from Headway, and by that stage I'd gone downhill quite a lot. So like the first few months after I came out and after I'd had the operation, I thought I'll be back and working now. Time to be grand. I'm looking back now. I think I was running on adrenaline. I thought it was fine, but after about 6 months, I was completely the opposite. I went like really bad. Didn't want to see anybody. Wasn't talking to anybody, but could help it. And it
Isolation.
Was, I was very wasn't traveling. I was quite depressed. And Ciara rang me, which I thought was amazing. Like,
Of course it was.
I kind of told her where I was at, or at least as much as I thought of where I was at. She was quite open about herself, and she told me a little bit about herself. So that like got me thinking. And she wanted to see when I'd start traveling again, because I mentioned I'll go at home, I'll get a bus, but like that was the first time I was going to do that in like a long time. And the next time I talked to her, which was on the phone, she like immediately asked, she goes, "Did you do that?" I said, "I did actually." And that was like, there were just initial steps, but like looking back now, it mattered hugely. Didn't really realise that at the time.
Steps for the new beginning.
Yeah.
Yes.
So all of that was the first half of it. The other half, again, kind of going back to what Peter said, the CFT, the therapy, and I was very sceptical about that. Very sceptical. Like the lot. I wasn't sceptical about Headway. I was like kind of going, yeah, I kind of do need it. Like, look where I'm at, and I'm not back at work, but I do need to talk to somebody. And I done actually a bit of counselling through the NRH, but this was different. But what I was sceptical about, I'll probably get onto this when we're doing my subject, but what I was sceptical about was other people being there. But as it turned out, that was the main part of it. Like the counselling and the psychological evaluation and all that was important. But what was as important, if not more, and as I say, I'll talk about it again, was other people.
Mary, how was your journey to discover Headways, please?
Well, I discovered. Well, I'll start with when I got the illness. I was at work at the time, and I was working with the team who were organising this. I was an administrator, and I was working with the team who were organising this big national meeting.
Right.
Anyway, I started apparently, I have a vague memory of it, but I was wandering around, and the head of the section I was working for, she thought I was having a stroke. So she thought I was having a stroke. So that was over there. So they called an ambulance, and the last thing I remember, the ambulance people put me into a wheelchair. And the last memory I had was being wheeled into the ambulance and blank for quite a while, you know. But anyway, they brought me to St. James's Hospital, and I was very lucky that they diagnosed pretty immediately within 24 hours that I had herpes simplex encephalitis. The reason why I say that is that many people with that illness, it's not diagnosed for a long time, and they go through, well, I presume they'd have a worse brain injury. Also, 70% of people die from it if it's not diagnosed. It's a very serious illness. But anyway, I'm told, I wasn't aware that they figured out what was wrong with me. The only way of diagnosing it is by taking a lumbar puncture, and that's the only way you can diagnose it.
Okay, so they found a way to diagnose.
Yeah. So anyway, I have to say St. James's was great, but there was one kind of thing, and I think even within the medical profession, people have no clue what encephalitis is. I think it's improving now, but I think historically it was, nobody'd even heard of it. But there was, now, St. James's were brilliant, and 99.999% of the staff were lovely and great. They put you on medication for 3 weeks. It's a kind of a drip that they give you twice a day for 3 weeks, and that's it for that illness. Anyway, so I didn't know what to do. I knew I couldn't go home.
Right.
That I was really struggling. So I managed to text a message to the head of the team it took me 24 hours to figure out how to do it. I did it with the mobile. And that totally changed everything. So I ended up being in hospital for 5.5 weeks, I think. And it's they who put me in touch with Headway. That's
Fantastic.
Yeah. So now I think it was for the year after, before Headway could see me, I think that's so your brain settles down a bit, probably, or something like
Getting
that.
to know the new you. Yes, the new you.
But Headway were great. Like, if they had sent me home, you know, after 2 weeks, and just sent me straight home without any referral, I would be totally lost, you know. So that's how Headway. But anyway, I discovered the choir. The Headway choir was brilliant. I discovered nobody had ever told me I could sing before.
The new you, yes.
So that was a good thing. Yeah, Headway is a great support, I have to say. Yeah.
But it's wonderful to talk to people that have different episodes of coming to Headways and how they can express themselves, understand other people, and yet make you feel welcome and part of it, even though you're living in your shoes, accepting the new you, which I think is fantastic. They've opened many doors, Headways have. They'll never be without. And by the way, if I get the 6 numbers, they are getting the first million.
You see, you're quite articulate, Josephine, and you're very. You come across as somebody who isn't sick at all, or hasn't been, you know. So I know what you mean. Like you're very good at projecting yourself. You've got a presence about you, you know.
Thank you.
So I can understand why somebody would look at you and think, oh, yeah, there's nothing wrong with her.
Them. Yeah, she's kidding.
Well, I have to say the same about you. Same about you. Same about you.
It's amazing when you listen and you put yourself in their place, someone else that has this experience of having a brain injury, being knocked down, having strokes, having paralyzation, can't see, can't walk, can't talk. And you say to yourself, look at you, you can make this, you can make the new you, be you, and accept it. And that's what I've done. And he's been good to me. And I thank the medical staff, but above all, Headways for my number one, always will be.
Our second heading today is the role of Headway in our lives with Peter Maybury.
Hi, Peter again.
Go, Peter, you can do it. Come on, go.
Thank you. As I said earlier, I was 4.5 years with a brain injury and no treatment for it up to that point before I got in touch with Headway. As Seamus said, I was a bit reluctant to get involved with the CFT program at the beginning because there was 8 of us in the group. And to me, it was like, oh, here we go. It'll be everybody swapping more stories and just kind of getting nowhere.
You still felt very empty then?
I didn't know what to expect. It was just a little reluctant.
Annoyed.
I was kind of sitting back a little bit and let's see how it goes. But then you meet the rest of the group and there's 8 people in the group. Everybody has a brain injury.
Okay.
But they all have it for different reasons. Like the 4 of us sitting around the table today, there's different reasons, different causes for the brain injury.
That's right.
But everybody has the same problems. Loss of memory, not able to think, muddled, all having the same difficulties. Probably the biggest surprise to me on the first CFT, or the first edition of the CFT that I attended, was the compassion I felt for everyone else.
Yes, I agree.
It didn't occur to me that I was the same. I thought I was fine. I'm starting to feel sorry for everyone else and going, oh, that's terrible. As the CFT program kind of progresses and develops, you learn compassion not just for other people, but you start to have it for yourself. You have to.
Yes.
And then I realized I hadn't done this for my entire life. And about halfway through the CFT course, I really seriously started to think that I'm going to come out of this a better person than I was before I had the accident.
It was the new you, Peter, coming out.
There was so much understanding about stuff that had been buried, stuff that had been happening all through my life, that when you start to see it, as I said earlier, you don't know what you don't know. When you start to learn it, the difference is huge.
Share with people.
And about halfway through the course, and like, I think 10 weeks. So about 4 or 5 weeks into it, I seriously started thinking I'm going to come out of this better than I was before I ever had the accident.
That's what Headways can do to introduce.
And that's what Headway did. And as the rest of the therapy course kind of continued, that thought kind of consolidated and really developed to the point where I think I can see an awful lot more now. I can understand an awful lot more now than I could before I had the accident. And I'm not saying I'm happy it happened, not by a long way. I'm really happy that I got involved with Headway because the treatment has been life-changing. It really has. And then after the CFT program, Headway played a role again. I got involved in a motorcycle maintenance course. Now, I'm no chicken, I'm 66.
And do you like motorbikes?
I love motorbikes.
Oh, you like?
Yeah.
And you've never had an accident on a motorbike?
No. Well, I have, but we won't go into that.
No, not serious.
It was.
You love
Well, I got
motorbikes.
involved in motorcycle maintenance last year. I did a course arranged by Headway. I can strip the bike down, I can take the engine apart, I can do whatever I want to do with it now. I still have my bike. I love my bike. Like I said, I'm no chicken, I'm 66, but I have the brain capacity to be able to do it now. I can hold it together on the bike, no problem. I have to say, the role Headway had in my life has been enormous. It's been huge.
Fantastic.
I'm doing all that stuff now that I would never have done. And I seriously think I'm a better person now than I was 6 years ago before I had the accident.
Do you get annoyed, Peter, when you think about the 4.5 years that you weren't introduced or
No,
left knowledge
No.
of Headways?
I think I don't get annoyed. I think my personal opinion is that the healthcare service in this country is dysfunctional. It doesn't serve half of what it needs to. I'm not annoyed. I could have, if I had got involved with Headway after a year or after 2 years, I may not have been ready to accept that I had a brain injury and things were different. For me, it was at 4 years, and everything you read or anything you see after you have a brain injury tells you your recovery will be complete or as complete as it's going to get within 2 years.
That's right.
That's rubbish. Pretty much back to full function now at this point. I had a site evaluation, like a full assessment with Headway just a month ago. And I'm not going to lie, I was very pleasantly surprised at the outcome, the result. It was, if I'd known going
Come on,
into
tell
it,
us. It was.
if I'd known going into that I would be average, above average, and significantly above average in an awful lot of areas, I would have taken it right there. So there you go. The role Headway has in your life is huge. You don't
Yes,
know
it
what you
has.
don't know, and until you accept it and you start to learn again,
That's it.
you're going nowhere.
The new people, and the fantastic place where Headways is.
Our third heading today is advice for others and building a support network with Seamus Carroll.
I go back to the CFT group because that's where I suppose things started to change for me. And we talked about it a little bit already, but I went into that, like I said, I was quite skeptical about other people being there. But what transpired, the way it went was listen to other people being there was the biggest strength the thing had. So my advice would be to get that perspective, to try and talk to other people, even if they haven't been through exactly what you've been through. It's amazing like listening to other people's stories. Like that's what Headway did for me. It put me in a position where I was here and I was surrounded by other people who've been through like much worse than I've been through, if truth be told.
The encouragement of it, James, is wonderful.
The perspective
Yep.
is the word I'd really use to describe. Like, again, I went from being very insular, very turned in on myself, to going, oh, right, they're suffering in a similar, like, say, relevant. I know, fatigue is probably a good one because that's something that I think a lot of people do go through. Memory loss, you were mentioning, Mary, that's something else people do go through. who've had brain injuries. So, like, hearing how people had ended up, whether it was through, like, accidents on bikes or cars, like, just, like, incredible things happening to people. Things you wouldn't believe, that there were, if you met them, you wouldn't believe they'd been through that, So my advice would be, just try and put yourself in a position where you get that perspective, you listen to other people, you get a chance to talk about what you've gone through, and that's hugely important. I remember when we were doing the CFT, like I got COVID during it, and I was so down. I was really like, I didn't really want to do anything.
Locked indoors, yeah.
Yeah, completely. Like I was going through everything that I was going through anyway, and the COVID on top of that. But I went to the CFT group, or it was all online. I set up the computer and I made myself go to do it. And I said at the start of the thing, look, I'm not going to have anything to say here because I'm just not in a good place at all. But like the reaction I got was unbelievable. Like everyone was just going, for a place, like, you're here.
Understanding.
You're here, like, and that combined with other people on other weeks being like much worse than I was that week, like same people who just were like visibly upset, or just they felt like they couldn't contribute because they were like, it was too on top of them what they were going through. And they moved around different people, different weeks that was happening to. And like that gave you perspective on your own suffering, like watching other people and kind of trying to support them, So I went from like this being skeptical of having to deal with other people, full circle, 360-degree turn, where I was going, right, the strength of this thing is other people. It's like, so that helped me up as far as Headway was concerned, because like I said earlier, during the allotment, but particularly the social group, I think I would have been, nah, that's not for me. It's not really what I'm going to do. But because I've been through that, and other people who were on the CFT course with me had been going to the social group, I was like so much more, when the offer came, I was going, yeah, completely. I got to the social group. And then I'm going, I look forward to when I know other people in the group who've like, they really look forward to that hour and a half every second week, like where they're surrounded by people who've been through what they've been through, but they understand. Yeah. And I think that's a key word, like understanding, because like you hear time and time again where it's, you have family, you have friends, you have people around you, but they haven't been through what you've been through, and they don't have the same understanding as somebody who has been through something similar.
That's right, Seamus, because I felt like that from my family, and I felt for it in a very, very deep way. They understood, but my understanding with it was I didn't want to put them through what I'm going through. And then they came down and spoke in Headways, and we talked to one another, and they said they were here for support, not for the old new, but for me now. And that was wonderful then too. Yeah. Because when you have so much love and understanding in your life from people that will never hurt you.
Yeah. So it's funny you put it that way as well, because like for me, before I had the operation and as I was deteriorating, I think the people around me were suffering more than I was, because I didn't really know what was going on.
Yeah.
So in a way, post the operation, I didn't necessarily want to be projecting it back onto them either. They'd already had enough. There was a certain amount of, I guess, not understanding, because, like I'm saying, they haven't been through it. So when they did the CFT, when they came to the social group, and like, it's just incredible. Like when you do get to hear what, I think there's a lot of people here who've had strokes. What you've been through earlier is something I didn't know about. That's a new one again.
And you're
yeah
again for me.
Like, so it comes in a lot of different shapes and sizes. There's a lot of difference between people.
Yeah.
But where they've had brain injuries, there's a certain understanding that you'll never get from somebody who hasn't. And so my advice would be to try and put yourself in a position where you're hearing other people and they're hearing you. I do a thing, I'm in the Cavernaum, I think I said earlier, I'm in the Cavernaum Ireland group, but I also do a thing from the CFT, like so that the people who were in that CFT have somewhere, we made up every month or every couple of months, and I kind of host an online thing there so that it didn't just stop dead, you know.
No.
There was a continuation and people could still talk to each other and kind of check in and see how they're getting on. And
Hello, we're alive, yeah.
We do
that kind of thing, yeah.
5 of us of the group of 8 in the CFT group still meet up.
Yeah.
And swap war stories.
It's more
It's great to see how people are developing.
Yeah, yeah.
And what's really great about that too is you're there without a psychologist. You're there just 5 people meeting up for a cup of coffee and
That's it.
chatting.
That's it. Well,
And it's great to see them.
funnily, like when we did the CFT group, they had these, like when you'd have a sort of break every so often, so there were breakout rooms. And I swear to God, it was in the breakout rooms with people just talking to each other and kind of buzzing, you know. So that was as important as what was going on in the actual the therapy itself.
Brings people together.
Completely. And
Fitting in it.
I think, like, when you're in the breakout room, there's even, you're leaning a little bit more open.
Yep.
So as time passed and people felt like they got to know each other
Yeah.
a bit more, they're going, oh, how's it going on?
No, it's 2 sugars, no, it's 5 sugars, I think. We'll do it that way.
Well, what you're saying there, the war stories, you know, like, oh yeah, I had to go in and have an MRI, this happened, that happened. Like, and it's kind of been able to swap that information with people who are going through.
Yeah.
Some of the group are still going through treatment and we're getting updates all the time.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
One's learning music, he's learning to play the piano, he's doing all sorts of stuff. He's only 70
It's wonderful.
and loving it.
Yeah,
But
wonderful.
look, we've kind of moved on to,
Yeah.
I think, what I was supposed to do. So this is brilliant, which was to ask you guys.
Well, to come back on the
that-
point you mentioned, understanding.
Yeah, okay.
It's that was one thing I found when I got in touch with Headway first. Somebody understood me. Somebody got it.
Mm.
You know, trying to explain you have a brain injury. They already know.
Mm.
And first, to speak to somebody who understands the position you're in before you go anywhere is huge.
Mm.
And it was from that, I think, that I really got the commitment, the acceptance first that I have a brain injury, because up to that, I thought I was
You
strong.
were in denial about it.
The acceptance and then commitment, because the one thing that was said to me on that first call was, it's not your fault. It's not your fault you have a brain injury.
Mhm.
But now that you know, it is your responsibility to try and get treatment. And it's worked for me. It in spades. Absolutely in spades. I'm far better now than I ever was.
Brilliant.
I couldn't agree more. Understanding is huge. I mean, while you might have compassion for other people, you may reject compassion they might have for you
Mm.
because you've no compassion for you. Going through that process is a terrific way to try and put your brain back together and to start thinking more like you did before you had a brain injury. And that's what it did for me.
It does help us an awful lot when we receive our therapy, and it makes us realize the loved ones that are around us, or who we're speaking to, or who we're talking to, or even if people go back to work. It's best to try and understand them, or what way they think about you now, and if they find it very difficult to accept. Because I had a very, very large circle of friends, but when I had 2 brain operations, I'm not saying I was dismissed, but they were very clever in ways, thinking that if they kept a distance, I would recover better.
Mm.
No way. The more people you have...
Is that what they told you, or you?
they
that's what
did tell me that about 3 years
Did
later.
it?
Yeah. And that's when I decided then I can travel and I can talk to people. And it was amazing. There was a lovely American group that came over from Iowa, somewhere like
Iowa.
Iowa. And they had asked me to say something to them. And when I said to them, they still address me every year. When are you coming to see us? I said, well, yeah, when you pay the ticket, I'll be there, girl. But it's wonderful that people, they can get frightened of us too. It's horrible when you think about it.
That's a good
People
point.
without brain injury.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
good point.
they are frightened, and they're frightened of, is he going for a drink, or are you allowed to drink alcohol now? What tablets are you on? But it's up to us to really stay on the course that we know it's right,
Well,
and then express it all to them.
I think so. I think it was mentioned earlier.
Well,
I'm
the
not
only
sure.
thing you can manage is yourself. What
Yeah.
other people are
That's
doing
it.
is really
Even your loved ones.
you control
Exactly.
everyone. Yeah.
You know, it's the difference between, say, a broken leg. You are both as it goes, but where an injury is visible, I think people react quite differently to where it's invisible when it's a brain injury, where they can't see it. There's nothing for them to, if you have a broken leg, a couple of months or however long it takes, and they see you're moving a bit better, they know you're getting better. But with the brain injury, there's nothing to kind of reconcile with. There's nothing to measure with, for people who are looking at you.
It's a major disability that can come out of a brain injury, that you're put in a wheelchair or you take strokes and things like that. I understand that. But they still don't understand why we can express how we're feeling so definitely in our lives, and that we have recovered even though our brain was injured. We've learned to live with the brain injury. It'd be like some people that have played football or play hurley or play rugby, and they've shoulder injuries. Now, you can't see that unless he's going to go back into a physical exercise or something. And I think it just takes time in life to communicate with people and make them realize you're going to be okay. This is the new me now, and please accept me. Rather than dismiss you and just say you have a brain injury.
So in terms of advice for other people, like, it's something you've reiterated a few times,
I have,
the new you, the new
me,
person.
Yeah.
Do you think that's the advice you would give somebody going through
Going through
parallel?
counselling and going through anything? Please try and accept what has happened to you. If you have recovered fully, that's fantastic. But please accept you did have an injury to your brain. It is injured on the inside there. There's no question about that. And accepting of what you are now is fantastic as well too. And to say it to people that are loved ones or even strangers or even people that we're sitting around the table with, I had that injury. Can you tell me about yours? The communication and your respect towards people, I think that's a major one for me.
Yeah, it's funny, like for me, because what caused all the when I went through the cavernoma is exactly the same as it was beforehand. Well, not exactly the same, it's bled, but it's still there, it's still in the same place.
Yeah.
I haven't had an operation on that. So I've had to get used to kind of living with that,
That's what I'm saying, yes.
Like people, the reaction I get from people who have brain injuries when I mention is completely different to the reaction I get from everybody else. Like brain injury, people go, what? I've never heard of it. Yeah, and they want to know more about it,
Yeah.
But like, I kind of feel bad even bringing it up to people who didn't to people who haven't been through anything, because they're kind of just looking at you going, yeah, it was
a bit crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
I know where you're coming from. I can see that. It's happened to me umpteen times. As I said, even being in the shops without your ID, and then people realise, yes, Headway is a fantastic place. This is my little bit. I can't pack the trolley that quickly. And that was another lovely lady. She was only 48 years of age. She had 2 strokes. And she felt so little, Megan. Can you not get out of the way then, let me get in with my trolley and things like that? But when she got her card and said to the assistant, can you get somebody to help me?
Yeah.
She could walk with the trolley, but she couldn't pack everything in.
Yeah.
So it came down to Headways again. Just a little card carrying. Yes, I do have a disability. I had 2 major strokes.
Yeah.
Some people can judge people too quickly, and it's not for me. Definitely.
That's true. That's true.
And that's what causes the isolation.
That's right, Peter, it does. Because people sometimes on the outside get angry with us and they say, they have a brain injury, there's something wrong with them, don't be minding them. And I think that's terrible being dismissed like that.
It is.
It's very hard for them, very offensive.
It can, that's one. It can go the other way, I think, as well, where you can kind of be looked at as, you're fine. You're all right. Why aren't you doing all the things you were doing beforehand? Why aren't you back at work?
Yeah.
They can't see anything and you seem like you're the same person. So why aren't you doing the same thing?
Yeah, and that's when Headways come into it again, giving us our independence back, our reality, how we feel, how we understand life, and for us to keep going, go all the way with life. We're only coming through this life once and we have to accept an awful lot of things, but I've accepted my brain injuries and I just say, thank you, God. Now just leave me alone for a little while. I'm going to do, that's the way I feel about life at the moment. And I would say that to everybody. I have said it a good few times. And look at people without injuries and how their lives can be affected by self-inflicted and anger and everything else that they want to try in life. But I'm not in that rocking boat yet and I don't want to be.
The other thing I think is worth bringing up again was something you said there, Peter. about being a better person. Like, it can actually improve you. Going through all this can have positive repercussions, you know? And that's kind of amazing, like, because you do. I certainly, my initial thing was the adrenaline. And, yeah, fine. And then it went downhill, and it was like, oh, jeez, what's wrong with me? What was going on? But yeah, eventually, part of me came out of that through the help I was getting here, through time passing. But like, yeah, kind of going, I think I might be a little bit better in some ways. Yeah,
Fantastic.
which is pretty amazing.
And our final heading today is, why did you decide to do this podcast with Mary Mangan?
I just think so few people know about encephalitis, and I really feel it needs to be known about, you know. That is still to this day, most people don't know, even within the medical profession. I think there are people now. I'm not criticising. I have to say, when I was ill, being brought in the way I was fantastic. And the health system worked fantastically for me. It's a very unknown illness, really. And I just think people need to be more aware of it. Also, my version of encephalitis is only one version. There are many other versions. And of course, I forget the vocabulary for it. But it can be innate in your system, which is probably worse than getting the viral one. Is less likely to be repetitive, I think. But if you get the other ones, can be having...
Bacteria one is?
Yeah, it can be, I forget the vocabulary for it, sorry.
Okay.
But they can be... issues can be ongoing through your life, you know, really.
How are you doing now, Mary?
As I say, I'm muddling along.
You're doing a great job. Yes, you are.
But, I'm managing fine.
Good.
I've become more active. I find it socially I've tried to become more active socially, because I do think my brain needs to be exercised all the time.
Yeah, of course.
So
It's probably the case with all of us.
yeah.
Probably the case for everybody.
Which wasn't an issue for me before I had my brain injury. I didn't really think
Well
of
done,
those
you.
terms.
Do you feel
I think
happy
that
about
was-
even speaking about it?
Do I feel happy speaking about my brain injury?
Yeah.
I do, when people understand, but I find in the general public, not at all.
I know.
Yeah. Because
Can be left down, yeah.
Well, it includes within family, you know. Although bizarrely, I would say my late eldest sister had encephalitis when she was 19 back in 1960. I was a child.
Whoa.
So it's kind of bizarre. But
So was there something genetic? Like, was it...
well, I don't think there's any. It's viral. So mine is viral. I don't know what type hers was. I don't think she knew herself. I don't know. Had they established it back in 1960?
Yeah.
Would they even have...
Have any
No,
knowledge
it
of
has the
even
capacity
testing about
to
it or
know.
anything? Yeah.
I know she was in hospital for about 4 or 5 weeks before they
Discovered.
figured out what was wrong with her. She was in the old Bagot Street Hospital. Remember Bagot Street?
Yes, I do remember. It's my area. My tonsils taken out there.
What?
I did, yeah. Yeah.
And she, I'd say, was more immediately affected than me. Like, she spent quite a few months out in the National Rehabilitation Hospital, and that, which was the situation. I just went to that outpatients thing, so I wasn't as apparently. It's probably my reaction, probably partly age related as well.
Yeah, of course.
I am more mature, as I say. So, but it's bizarre, the coincidence. Now, I would say hers was viral as well, but she never had a recurrence of it. I think with the other forms that are innate in your system, they can,
Keeps coming back.
you can have ongoing issues. But anyway.
My grandmother had a stroke. My grandfather had a stroke. I had 5 brothers, but one of my brothers had a brain aneurysm. And when he took his heart attack, his aneurysm bursted. When I went to Beaumont Hospital, I had to give them all the history of families and what can be done and what cannot be done. And then it came back to me after my second aneurysm being released and put in perspective. He said to me that my children need to have an MRI scan done every 5 years, that my aneurysms are hereditary.
All right.
And I could not believe that. My mother had her aneurysm seen in the old Richmond hospital. And that was from the eye and ear hospital where they thought it was a cyst on the eye, which was closing down. My mother didn't gain the eyesight of the eye back, but she lived for another 20 years. And Headways wasn't there then. And I had no knowledge about Headways until I was introduced with just a number off the wall. And when I think back on the history of things and what they know now through medical, they could tell me that it is hereditary in my family. Aneurysms and strokes. And I do accept it. 3 of my children go for their MRI scans. My youngest son was only in college and he said, it's quite a difficult amount of money, Mum. I said, yes, really. So your life is in replacement society. Please go and do it. And he did.
Did like in terms of
for
the
me to get
podcast,
them twice, I'm sorry.
No,
for me to get them twice, I didn't dismiss it. It's only when I sat and spoke to somebody about it, and that doctor knew immediately, and he could tell me within 6 weeks when they had a meeting, and that it is hereditary.
What I was going to say was, like, do you think it's important in spreading kind of awareness of Headway on what happens here?
It's 100% important.
Yeah.
A million times over, I would give anything to help Headways because they're just absolutely fantastic.
Well,
I'm very thankful that it got opened here in Ireland.
Yeah.
So how long have you been attending Headway then?
Just
So
over
quite a long
12
time.
years now.
All right.
I asked Mr. that operated on my brain, do you know of Headways? He said, I know my job. And he wasn't very cutting about it, but he was right. My job was to go inside your brain, release them, flip them, and now you're good. Please go and live your life. It's like, can I go skydiving? He said, no, live your life, please. And with his mannerism, when I think about it, it's great to say that there is public doctors that look after public people, or what can happen with a private system that can be moved up the ladder very quickly to a patient that's on the public system. And even before operated on my head, it was nearly 13 months, and I had to live with 2 bombs inside my head, whether they were going to bust or I was just going to collapse. So when you think about it, it's fantastic that the improvement of what people can do for us in life. And that's what I think mostly about constantly. They've done a great job and it's just fantastic for me. I am the new person. That's it.
You know, I mean, I think it's important. Obviously, the content, it's available. Like, people get to hear you, for example. You're
My grandmother never spoke to drang.
Well, you're quite articulate about what you've been through.
Oh, yeah.
And like, I think you've got a very clear understanding of the journey, if you know.
Thank you.
So, like, it's brilliant to get a recording of that and for other people to hear, well, Jesus, all this has happened to her, and listen to how she is, Like, that's amazing.
Thank you.
Well, it's also from the point of view of, like, trying to get the Headway name out there a little bit more. I mean, it's people have asked in the social group that I do, people have asked, what's starting this podcast? Is that like,
yeah,
and I think they're looking at her, particularly from that vantage point of trying to publicise Headway, if you like,
advertise,
because they're in for people who've been through whatever it is they've been through and have come out of hospital. Like, a lot of people don't really know. They don't know what to do next, So the podcast will hopefully, it puts the information out there a little bit more. It gets, whether it's Spotify or Apple, whether, different platforms that are now representing Headway.
Well,
okay.
With podcast, I never heard of Headway. I left hospital. I was told about other agencies that are HSE supported, and they were unresponsive. I didn't hear about Headway until I really needed help. You don't know what you need help with. You don't know what you don't know, but you know you need help. And to talk to somebody, the first call with Headway was an eye-opener for me, because right from the word go, they understood. And they started saying things that made sense to me. To get involved then with the group on the CFT program was terrific, because it opens up from there. I go back to saying, you don't know what you don't know. People need to hear about Headway.
Yes.
Hospitals should be informing anybody with a brain injury about Headway.
Yes.
They don't. They should be. It's
Well, if I
as a part of the CFT thing, just to finish, as a part of the CFT thing, it had such an impact on me. I wanted to help in any way I could to try and promote Headway and to try and improve awareness, people's awareness of Headway. Without it, I wouldn't be here. So that level of commitment, when the podcast came up and I was asked to come along, I was thrilled. It's, great. If something that one of us says, whether it's me or anybody else, has an impact with somebody who's listening about Headway for the first time, then it's a success. It's you've helped somebody.
Well, I think you put your finger on something there like that. People who've dealt with Headway in general, like they want to give something back because they feel that it's done like so much for them. So something like a podcast comes along and they're like, oh yeah, we're sure, you know?
Yeah.
Sorry, Mary, what were you going to say?
No, I don't talk to it. No, Headway is a fantastic support. Oh, I agree. There are people who dropped me the day I went into hospital. Though that was absolutely the case.
It's funny.
So I do have.
And I'm not going to lie, I don't miss them.
No, because you've got the new you. Yeah, there you go.
But it's not new me. Same old me.
But it's still new attitude towards life and what you're feeling better about.
Peter Merck too.
So guys, just to sum it up then, why are we doing the podcast?
Mate, awareness is the word.
I think awareness as well, especially of encephalitis.
Acceptance. If somebody is listening to this who thinks they're fine, there's a good chance you're not. And accept it, get treatment. It's so important. It is literally the difference between life and death.
Hope. When you give a person hope in life, of no matter what circumstances they're in, it gives the person confidence, trust, understanding, and a belief. And I want hope for all the people that have these brain injuries. Thank you, Shane.
Before we wrap up today's episode, let's take a moment to thank our guests and give you a sneak peek into the exciting journey ahead on the Headway podcast.
Absolutely, Shane. We have some fantastic plans in store and we can't wait to share them with all of you.
First off, we'll be covering a wide range of topics, delving into various aspects of life after brain injury. From coping mechanisms and healthcare insights to personal stories, we want to bring you the content that resonates with your experiences.
And we're not just limited to our own experiences. We're planning to bring in experts, professionals, and individuals with unique perspectives to share their insights and knowledge.
We believe in the power of diverse stories and expertise. Expect to hear from your healthcare professionals, caregivers, advocates, and more.
In addition to these compelling topics and guests, we're also exploring some exciting features to keep the podcast engaging and interactive.
One feature we're particularly thrilled about is our guests and having their voice being heard.
And of course, we want to hear from you, our listeners. We'll be opening up opportunities for you to share your stories, ask questions, and even suggest topics that you'd like us to cover.
So get ready for a dynamic and insightful journey ahead. Whether you're someone directly impacted by a brain injury or support or seeking understanding, there's something here for everybody.
So make sure to follow our Headway podcast so you don't miss out on these upcoming episodes. And if you have topics or guests you'd like us to feature, don't hesitate to reach out.
As we wrap up today's episode, we want to leave you with a call to action.
So if you've been moved, inspired, or if you found value in today's conversation, we encourage you to take a few simple steps.
First and foremost, make sure you hit that follow button. By following this podcast, you won't miss out on any future episodes and you'll be able to be part of this growing community.
And don't keep the goodness to yourself. Share the Headway podcast with your friends, family, and anyone who might benefit from the stories and insights we share here.
Your support is invaluable. If you know someone who has been affected by a brain injury, or if you're a caregiver seeking understanding, let them know about the Headway podcast. It might just be the resource they've been looking for.
We also want to hear from you. Your feedback is crucial. Share your thoughts, suggestions, and even your own stories. Head to our website or social media platforms and drop us a message.
Speaking of which, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Spotify. It's a great way to stay updated on upcoming episodes, behind the scenes content, and community discussions.
And last but not least, if you have a moment, leave us a review on your favourite podcast platform. Your reviews help us to reach more listeners and make a positive impact on a broader audience.
Thank you for being part of the Headway community. Your engagement means the world to us.